I was standing in front of my wife's coffin, trying to hold myself together, when my phone started vibrating nonstop. The church was silent. Mourners whispered prayers, tissue boxes passed from hand to hand, and the faint smell of lilies, Emily's favorite, filled the room. But all I could hear was the heavy pounding of my heart. I kept my eyes on the polished wooden coffin. The same coffin that held the woman I loved for 17 years. The woman who filled every corner of my life with warmth. And yet, here I was watching her slip away forever. So when my phone buzzed, I didn't even bother to check it. Who would call me today? Today wasn't a day for conversations. Today wasn't a day for anything except surviving the next breath. But the buzzing didn't stop. Came again, and again, and again. People started glancing at me. I fumbled in my pocket, embarrassed, planning to switch the thing off completely. But then I saw the caller ID. Mr. Harris, Emily's boss. My eyebrows furrowed. Why would he call me now? He already sent flowers. He said a kind message on the company card. So why today? Why at this exact moment? My hands were trembling as I swiped to answer. Hello, I whispered, trying not to disturb the service. But the voice on the other end didn't match the tone of condolence I expected. There was no gentle sympathy, no slow, respectful speech. His voice was shaky, almost on the edge of panic. David, I'm so sorry to call you right now, he stammered. But you need to come to the office immediately. My breath caught. What? Right now? I'm at Emily's funeral. I know, he interrupted. But this can't wait. There's something you must see. Something? About Emily? What could possibly be so urgent? Please, he added, his voice breaking like he was holding back fear. It's about Emily. My heart froze. About Emily. On the day I was burying her. I felt a strange pressure in my chest, like the world had suddenly shifted sideways. My fingers tightened around the phone. What do you mean it's about Emily? I whispered. She's gone. What else is there to know? There was a long pause. A pause so heavy it felt like it fell into the room like a weight. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost as if he feared someone might overhear him. David, I can't say it over the phone. All I can tell you is, Emily left something behind. Something important. And now that she's gone, you're the only one who must see it. My stomach twisted. A cold shiver ran down my spine. Emily left something? For me? Or for someone else? My mind raced in a million different directions. Did she hide something? Was she keeping a secret? Was there something she never told me? On the worst day of my life, suddenly I was faced with an unknown that felt even heavier. I looked around the church. People stood with bowed heads, unaware that my world had just shifted again. Unaware that a new, terrifying question had entered my life. What did my wife leave behind that her boss didn't want to discuss on a phone call? I swallowed hard. Mr. Harris, I said slowly, is this something I should be worried about? His silence answered before he did. Yes, he whispered. You should. And David, please hurry. I felt dizzy. My knees weakened. The floor beneath me felt like it tilted. Something wasn't right. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. And for the first time since Emily's death, I felt a new fear. A fear that maybe, just maybe, her death wasn't as simple as everyone believed. As I lowered the phone, staring at the coffin again, a new thought began clawing its way into my mind. Was Emily trying to tell me something before she died? Something I never had the chance to hear? The buzzing phone had stopped. But now, a louder noise filled my head. The sound of questions I was nowhere near ready 2 hours later. After the final handful of dirt fell on my wife's coffin. After the condolences. After the tight hugs I barely felt. I got in my car and drove straight to Emily's workplace. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not my family. Not my daughter. Not even my best friend who offered to drive me home. I just needed answers. The drive was a blur. Streetlights streaked across the windshield like smudged memories. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles had turned white. I didn't even turn on the radio. The silence felt safer. When I pulled into the company parking lot, Everything looked painfully normal. A delivery truck reversing. Employees stepping out with coffee cups. Security guards chatting at the entrance. Nobody knew that my world had collapsed just a few hours ago. I stepped inside the building, and immediately the familiar scent hit me. Emily's scent. Vanilla. Soft. Warm. Comforting. She wore that same perfume every single day. She used to joke that it made her feel like a walking cookie. My heart twisted. The hallways felt haunted. But not by ghosts. By memories. There was the bench where she once sat waiting for me after work. The elevator she said always got stuck. The break room where she made friends laugh with her silly stories. Each step forward felt like stepping deeper into her world. A world she was no longer part of. I reached the door to Mr. Harris's office and knocked softly. He opened it instantly, almost too quickly, like he'd been standing right behind the door waiting for me. His face told me everything before he even spoke. He looked drained, pale, anxious. Not the kind of anxiety you get from work pressure, the kind that comes from fear. "David, come in," he said, voice low. The moment I stepped inside, he closed the door and locked it with a shaky hand. That alone sent a chill through me. Why lock the door? He motioned for me to sit. I didn't. I needed to know why I was here. He swallowed hard, then reached into a drawer and pulled out a laptop. The way he handled it, carefully, almost reverently, made my heart pound faster. "David," he began quietly, "before Emily died, she left something. Something she wanted you to have. Something she never got the chance to tell you about." My breath hitched. "What do you mean?" I asked. "She didn't tell me anything." "I know," he whispered, eyes dropping to the laptop. "She couldn't." I felt my pulse climb. He clicked the power button and waited. The room was silent except for the hum of the machine booting up. My palms were sweating. My chest felt tight. Finally, he opened a folder. Inside it was a single video file. "For David, only if something happens." My blood ran cold. Something happens. Not in case of accident. Not for later. Not even if I'm gone. No, if something happens. That meant she expected danger. She anticipated it. She prepared for it. My knees threatened to give out. "Emily recorded this?" I whispered. He nodded slowly. 2 weeks before she passed. 2 weeks. 2 weeks she lived with a secret like this. Without saying a word to me. My mind swirled with questions. Why wasn't I told? Why didn't she come to me? What could she possibly be involved in? Why didn't she tell me? I asked again, but this time it came out broken. Mr. Harris looked at me with sad, frightened eyes. "I think she didn't want you in danger." Danger. There it was again. The word nobody had said at the funeral. Before I could process anything, he whispered, "I haven't watched this. She told me not to. She left it sealed with instructions. And when the accident happened, I knew I had to call you." I stared at the laptop as if it were a bomb. A part of me wanted to run. Another part needed to know the truth, even if it destroyed me. My heart hammered as he moved the cursor over the file. He looked at me one last time, as if checking whether I was ready. I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. He clicked. The screen flickered. A dark background, a small desk lamp, and then Emily appeared, alive, breathing, looking straight into the camera with those familiar brown eyes that always made me feel safe. Only this time, she didn't look safe. She looked scared. My lungs froze. My wife had recorded a message for me. A message she never lived to deliver. And as the video began to play, I felt the air leave my body. Because whatever she was about to say, whatever truth she had hidden, it was big enough that she recorded this secretly. Big enough that her boss locked the door. Big enough that Emily believed she might die because of it. And now, I was finally about to hear it. Emily appeared on the screen. Alive, smiling barely, and nervous in a way I had never seen before. Her eyes flicked downward as if she was reading notes, then back to the camera. She straightened her posture like she was forcing herself to stay calm. "Hi, love," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "If you're watching this, It means I'm gone. Those words punched the air out of my lungs. Gone. My knees nearly gave out. I grabbed the edge of Mr. Harris's desk to keep myself from collapsing. The woman I married, the woman I planned to grow old with, had recorded a video expecting her own death. She took a shaky breath and continued, "I need to tell you something. Something I've been hiding because I didn't want to scare you." I felt my heart twist violently inside my chest. Hiding something? Emily? We told each other everything, or so I thought. I leaned closer to the screen, barely breathing. "I wasn't just working late," she said. "I was helping investigate someone inside the company. Someone dangerous. Someone stealing millions from the charity fund." Her voice cracked on the word dangerous. Millions? Charity fund? My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. "I found proof," she whispered. "And I think they know I found it." A chill spread through my entire body. Slow at first, then sharp like ice. Emily, my gentle, laughing, soft-spoken wife, in danger? Targeted? Being watched? And she never told me. My hands shook so violently I accidentally nudged the laptop. The image wobbled before stabilizing. Emily continued, "I didn't want to worry you," she said softly, blinking back tears. "I thought, if I could finish the investigation quickly, everything would be fine. But now I'm not so sure." She exhaled slowly, a long, shaky breath. "If anything happens to me, take the folder in my desk. It has everything." My stomach dropped. Everything she died for? The video ended abruptly, no goodbye, no last smile, no reassurance. Just blackness. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. I sat frozen, staring at the blank screen, hearing only the faint buzzing in my ears. Anger, fear, grief, shock, all crashing into each other so violently I couldn't separate them. Mr. Harris didn't speak. He didn't move. He just quietly watched me, his eyes full of a heavy, heartbreaking understanding. Finally, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "There's one more thing." He opened a desk drawer slowly, like he was handling something radioactive. Inside was a thick file, stuffed, overstuffed, with papers spilling from the edges. He placed it in front of me. "This," he said softly, "is what she was talking about." My hands trembled as I reached for the folder. It felt heavier than paper should feel, like I was lifting a piece of Emily's burden. When I opened it, the truth hit me like a freight train. Bank statements showing money vanishing into unknown accounts. Forged signatures. Emily had circled them in red ink. Internal emails discussing adjustments and transfers. Photos of financial documents. Screenshots. A timeline Emily had painstakingly assembled. Proof. Solid, undeniable proof. And then, at the center of it all, one name, written in bold marker, underlined several times. A name I recognized instantly. A name I trusted. A man who had eaten at my table, attended Emily's birthday, sent us Christmas cards. My throat tightened so painfully I had to swallow hard. Couldn't be him. Shouldn't be him. But it was. The world around me blurred, as if someone had smeared reality with trembling fingers. That name wasn't just written on those documents. It was carved into the heart of a betrayal so deep it made my hands go numb. Mr. Harris whispered, "She didn't die in an accident, David." The words echoed in the room, cold and sharp. She was silenced. Silenced. The words stayed in my mind like a knife, twisting deeper with every heartbeat. Emily hadn't fallen asleep at the wheel. She hadn't lost control of her car. She hadn't misjudged the curve, like the police report said. No, something happened to her. Something planned. Something deliberate. And someone she trusted made sure she never reached home that night. My entire body shook. My wife didn't just die. She was taken. And at that moment, staring at that single name in the center of the evidence, I felt something inside me change forever. Grief became rage. Pain became purpose. And the man who destroyed my life was about to learn that Emily left behind more than proof. She left behind me. The name on the documents felt like a punch straight to the chest. Brandon. I stared at it, my pulse thundering in my ears. Emily's colleague, our friend, a man who had eaten dinner at our home, who played cards with us on weekends, who once helped me fix a broken fence. I remembered him laughing with Emily in the kitchen, like he belonged there. I remembered him giving my daughter birthday gifts. I remembered trusting him. And now I was looking at proof, undeniable proof, that behind that friendly exterior lurked a man who stole from vulnerable children. A man who, when discovered, didn't think twice about silencing the person who caught him. My wife. My hands clenched so tightly around the folder that the edges dug into my skin. Mr. Harris spoke softly, as if afraid the truth itself might break me more than I already was. David, I didn't call the police because I was afraid he'd run. But with you here, we can finish what Emily started. Finish what Emily started. The words echoed in my mind like a bell. Up until this moment, my life had been consumed by grief, raw, suffocating grief. But now, something shifted deep inside me. This wasn't just about loss anymore. This wasn't just about mourning. This was about justice. Emily had fought for the truth. She had risked her life. She had left the evidence behind. She trusted me to carry it across the finish line. I closed the folder with a steady hand. Let's go, I said. At the police station, the drive to the precinct felt surreal. Mr. Harris sat beside me, wringing his hands. The folder lay in my lap like a weight pulling me forward. When we arrived, detectives ushered us into a small interview room. The walls were gray. The table was cold metal. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. I placed the folder on the table with a finality that seemed to shift the air in the room. This is everything my wife collected, I said. She died because of it. The detectives exchanged looks, serious ones. One of them, Detective Ramos, opened the folder and began scanning its contents. Minutes turned into an hour into 2. Papers shuffled. Questions were asked. Screenshots were analyzed. Phone numbers were dialed. Every piece of evidence Emily gathered was crystal clear. She had done their job for them. Finally, Detective Ramos leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. We have enough, he said. We're issuing an arrest warrant for Brandon Hale immediately. At that moment, a strange mix of emotions washed over me. Relief, rage, pride, heartbreak. Emily's voice echoed in my mind. If anything happens to me, take the folder. She knew. She predicted it. She set everything in motion. Mr. Harris placed a trembling hand on my shoulder. She trusted you, David, he said softly. She knew you'd finish this. He's running just as we prepared to leave the station to catch our breath. The door to the room burst open. A uniformed officer rushed in, face flushed and breathless. Detective, he said urgently. We just got a hit from Highway Patrol. Detective Ramos stood up sharply. What is it? Brandon just crossed the state border, the officer reported. He's heading west. Fast. The room fell silent. My heart dropped. He knew. He knew we had the evidence. He knew we were coming for him. He knew Emily's investigation didn't die with her. So he did what cowards do when cornered. He ran. Detective Ramos muttered a curse under his breath. We'll notify Border Patrol, State Police, everyone. He won't get far. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. He's running because he thinks he got away with murder, I said quietly. The detective looked at me, eyes narrowing. But he didn't. I shook my head slowly, a fire building inside me. One I hadn't felt since the moment I learned Emily was gone. No, I said, voice steady, controlled, deadly calm. He didn't know my wife. Emily wasn't someone who gave up. She wasn't someone who backed down. She wasn't someone easy to silence. And he certainly didn't know me, because now I had her evidence, her motive, her courage, her voice, and I wasn't going to stop until she got justice. Brandon may have been running, but I was coming for him, not out of vengeance, but out of love, out of loyalty, out of the promise Emily never got to hear me make. I'll finish what you started. 3 days later, at exactly 3:17 a.m., my phone rang. I shot up from the couch, heart pounding. I hadn't slept properly since the investigation began. Every noise made me think of Emily. Every shadow reminded me of the night she never came home. But this call didn't carry dread. It carried something else. Relief. I answered in a shaky whisper. "Hello, Mr. Turner," the detective said, his tone calm but firm. "We got him." For a moment I didn't respond. I just closed my eyes as the words washed over me. We got him. Brandon wasn't just caught. He had been captured trying to flee the country. The coward didn't go quietly. He had a car packed full of evidence of his guilt. Fake passports, multiple identities, stacks of cash, encrypted hard drives, and one message he thought he deleted. Emily knew too much. Those 4 words hit me with the force of a freight train. I sat down before my legs gave out. My fingers began to tremble, not from fear, but from the truth I could no longer deny. Emily didn't die because she was in the wrong place. She didn't die because of a tragic accident. She didn't die because fate was cruel. No, my wife died because she chose courage over silence. Because she protected children she had never even met. Because she stood for what was right, even when it put her life in danger. She died a hero, a real one, not the kind in movies. The kind who stands up quietly, bravely, with no applause. The kind who keeps going even when they're terrified. My Emily. Months later, the courtroom was full the day Brandon was sentenced. Reporters, charity board members, former co-workers, strangers who had been touched by the story. But all I could see was the empty seat where Emily should have been. Before the sentencing, the judge allowed me to read a victim impact statement. I brought the paper, but my hands shook too hard to hold it steady. Then I remembered something. The last lines of Emily's video. The ones she recorded with tears in her eyes. "David, if anything happens to me, promise me you'll live. Promise me you'll smile again." The courtroom faded. All I saw was her face on that screen, brave, trembling, determined. Those words had broken me when I first heard them. But they also put me back together. Slowly, painfully, beautifully. I looked up at the judge and began speaking. "Your Honor, my wife didn't die because she was careless or unlucky. She died because she was courageous. She discovered the truth and refused to look away." I glanced at Brandon. He looked smaller than I remembered. Weaker. Defeated. I continued. "She fought for children she'd never met. She fought for honesty. For justice. And even in her last days, when she knew she was in danger, she left everything behind so the truth wouldn't die with her." My voice cracked, but I didn't stop. She asked me to live. She asked me to smile again. And I will. Because her story isn't a tragedy. It's a reminder. A reminder that the strongest people are sometimes the quietest. The bravest battles are fought in silence. And the greatest heroes don't wear capes. They wear hope. The courtroom was silent. The judge wiped a tear from her eye before delivering the sentence. Life in prison. No chance of parole. Justice. Real, undeniable justice. The charity recovered the stolen funds. New safeguards were implemented. Emily's name was cleared publicly and honored by the organization she cared so deeply about. Her courage changed an entire system. A new beginning when I stepped outside the courthouse. Sunlight hit my face. Warm, soft, almost familiar. For the first time since Emily's death, I didn't feel alone. I felt her. In the warmth of the sun. In the strength in my chest. In the quiet whisper of the wind reminding me she was still with me. Her courage didn't end the day she died. It lived on. In me. In every child she helped protect. In every person inspired by her bravery. In the truth she refused to bury, even when it cost her everything. I walked down the courthouse steps with a steady pace, a lighter heart, and a promise. One I intended to keep. To live. To smile again. To honor her story. And today, as I share this with you, it's not for pity. It's not for sympathy. It's to honor a woman who gave everything, even her life, to protect others. A woman who proved that heroes don't need recognition. They just need courage. Emily had that courage. And because of her, the world is a little safer, a little brighter, a little more honest. Her story doesn't end with her death. It lives on every single time someone chooses truth over fear.